Yes, sir. We're gonna go.
Yeah, so close your laptops, please. Give full attention to the front of the class.
You should have started by saying I spared you.
Sorry.
Okay, and go ahead.
Okay, so we are for the death penalty. Is it just to say that murderers and rapists should be allowed back onto the streets after making a decision of taking someone's life or taking a part away from someone's life, when in fact that most hard cases will do the deed again? If they choose to do it again, that means they have learned nothing. Death penalty would allow for people to think more clearly before making a decision about committing a crime. It would also give family closures for the ones that they've lost.
Okay, go ahead. Opening debate over here.
So, I believe that life is precious, even life of a criminal. Those who believe in God know that life is a gift, and that no one has the right to take life from another. Everyone should learn to respect life and understand its importance. And many who don't believe in God will still admit this. Life is all we have. This is the most precious of our possessions, and no one truly wants to die. If at all possible, everyone wants to live a long and happy life. Should we make ourselves like the murderers and rapists, who think that they have the right to choose who lives or dies? Should we pretend that we have the right and authority over life and death? No matter what a person believes in, do we have the audacity to think that we have the right to kill, regardless of circumstances?
And back to you guys for your first 4 arguments.
So you said life was precious and that nobody wants to die. But with the death penalty in place, people think twice before committing murder because as the death penalty is punishment, no one wants to die. But I think that when it comes down to it, a punishment should be equal to its crime. That when you take the life of someone else, it doesn't seem fair to me that you sit in a safe cell away while you've taken the lives of others. It also provides closures to the family of the victims. Rather than the criminal sitting in jail, possibly being released back into society, the family of the victim knows exactly what's going to happen. The family of the victims don't need to sit and wonder if they'll get released because they know exactly where they are at that given time.
Yeah, there's also some criminals when they go to prison, they don't learn anything, but when they're also in prison, they can technically still make phone calls. If they are a gang member, they can make a phone call to a gang member, and somebody that they recently killed can go after that family, like the family of the person that's dead. So technically, it's not justice, like there's nothing going on. And prisoners are sent to prison to be there. They're not actually punished while being there. Yeah, sorry.
Are those your 4 points?
Hold on.
Yeah, no, I'm just making sure we're not interrupting you.
9 pages.
Yeah, I don't know.
She'll find something here.
Oh, it's just rare.
Yeah, Craig.
Yeah, great. Okay, go. Just go.
You guys have stated your 4 points?
I'll use it later.
Okay, then we have the rebuttal. Go ahead.
All right. You mentioned how death penalty itself might serve as a deterrent for those people who would commit murder and stuff like that. Well, there is absolutely no credible evidence that death penalty deters crime more effectively than long-term imprisonment. People who have been committed murder since before recorded history, and people will continue to commit murder regardless of the death penalty. That is the way that human beings are, and it is there. To fundamentally change the human race would be the only way to change whether or not we can commit murder. And so there is no evidence that deterrence is in any effect at all. On top of that, there will always be gang members, there will always be things like that where people would call and, or one person to go and hit another family or something like that. However, the purpose of those facilities that those people are in is not simply just to be there. Those facilities, their actual term is correctional facilities, is actually to help change people, to make people better. And so that in itself is also a place.
I was just going to say the same thing. People are sent to prison to be corrected or
not open debate yet. You can just post it as a rhetorical
Okay.
question.
Okay, just ask yourself that. Because ultimately the question isn't whether they deserve to die for their crimes. The question is, do we have the right to kill? And I think, you know, it completely goes against the Canadian Constitution to kill. I think the last hanging was in
The last
like
hanging,
1960.
the last hanging was in 1960. People were imposed as statute.
Capital punishment was taken out for a reason. Yeah, that's all. I'll stop there for now.
Okay, that gives us 1 minute to prepare for the open debate. Okay, this brings us to our open debate. Whoever has their hand up first can begin. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, got a little story for you here. In 1946 in Wisconsin, a man named John Cobb was suspected of murder and put to death because he was found at the scene of another crime. 1 year later, evidence came forward proving that he was in fact innocent and was killed to death for no reason whatsoever. Since the reinstatement of the modern death penalty in the United States, 87 people have been set free from death row because they were later proven innocent. And this is demonstrated in an error rate of 1 innocent person for every 7 persons executed. When the consequences of life and death demand the same standard for our systems of justice that we would have for our airlines or for other aspects of our life. It is a central pillar of our criminal justice system that it is better that guilty people go free than 1 innocent should suffer and be put to death. It is reflected to ensure that we are being just. Yeah.
Cool.
Would you think that forensics have improved since 1946?
Yes.
You do think so? So do you think that nowadays it's a lot easier to get definitive proof as to whether or not someone did in fact do the crime?
We're not arguing whether
So-
even if there is definitive proof, we're arguing whether they should die or not whether there's proof or not.
And originally what I had actually said here is that there are still 87 people who have been set free. And this is facts in the United States.
Which shows there is room for error.
Yeah, there is still room for error. People in the United States, 87 of them since the law has been reinstated, have been set free from death row, meaning that they were originally convicted to death row and then were proven innocent. So if we bring that back into play into Canada, there are chances of us making mistakes and innocent people will still be put to death.
Are you Christian? No. No.
In the Bible, it does say Elijah died in World War I, correct?
Yes.
So does that mean that if someone murders somebody else, a fair punishment would be that they get murdered in return?
And then everybody's blind. You just,
Yeah.
There you go.
That in a way is just describing basic retribution. When we think that people who kill deserve to be killed, one of the biggest phrases in the Bible, one of the commandments per se, is thou shalt not kill. And it actually describes why. That's we as human beings don't have the right to choose whether or not a person lives or dies. Some people do that anyway, and that is why we have the criminal justice system we have today. That is why we have these correctional facilities. But at the same time,
know it's a pretty different tactic, but if you're thinking about it,
It's a kickback.
yeah.
Is that a country law?
Well, it's in other countries.
I want to live in a country that doesn't have murder. Yeah, it is a country I want to live in.
Is
It
there a country-
doesn't matter how you get your point across, whether it's by fear or any other.
Right, it doesn't matter whether the country has capital punishment or doesn't have capital punishment, dirty murder.
On top of that, if we're gonna live in a country that doesn't have murder rapists, we might as well be in paradise. Human beings make mistakes, human beings make crimes. That is going to happen regardless of whether we're living in this world.
Yes, but if that person is making the same mistake over and over and over again,
There is no chance for them to make that mistake over and over and over again. Life with parole, right, life without parole. They'll be in prison. They will probably most likely die in prison. But we're not going to kill them.
it's scary.
So you just said that they're most likely, they will probably die in prison. So you said the entire point of the prison system is to rehabilitate. They can't rehabilitate if they're going to die in prison.
Yes, that's actually very wrong.
But you
That's
just
many-
said that
that's
they're going
many
to go to
stories
prison
of-
and die in prison.
That
But
doesn't mean that
earlier
they
you
can't change as a person inside.
And what happens when they get to prison, like, if they don't change? Like, who says they're going to change while they're in prison?
Well, the system will deny them parole because they trust in the system.
Okay, so that is the open debate. Great work, both sides. We have the closing statements starting now, and I believe you guys will be going first.
I'm just going to keep my closing statement short and simple. It's important to keep in mind that by putting an end to the lives of murderers, it saves lives as well. So people are going to kill in prison anyways. If a serial killer is a serial killer outside prison, there's a high possibility that even with rehabilitation, it might not work on them and they'll still be a serial killer inside of the prison system. Also, if execution is murder, then actually I'm not going to get that because we didn't talk about it. So I'm just going to end there.
Okay, so again, I said ultimately the moral question surrounding capital punishment is whether those convicted of the crime deserve to die or whether we deserve to kill them. And I think we don't. I think the correctional centers are put in place because there's rehabilitation is possible and people can change. Going in with the fear of if you kill them, they'll kill you is wrong. Humans are imperfect people, and who are we to judge? In a civilized society, we reject the principle of doing to criminals what they do to our victims. So you can't rape somebody for raping somebody else. You don't burn someone's house down for them burning someone else's house down, and you don't kill somebody because they killed somebody else. And one more thing. Choice is what separates us